what's up? It's Richie here with Statifying Football. This is the preview for your noon college football week 4 games. Week 4 already, man. It's 1/4 of the way through the season. Let's just kick it off. Noon, we got Southern Miss against Alabama. Southern Miss, their last game, they had an awesome shootout against Troy. They won 47-42. Quarterback Jack Abraham threw for 463, 2 touchdowns, ran for 26 yards and another touchdown. Wide receiver Quez Watkins, 7 catches, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Adams had 11 catches for 180 yards and a 100-yard kick return for a touchdown. They had 626 yards of offense. Their defense had 4 sacks, but they allowed 528 yards to Troy and a kick return touchdown as well. And a couple weeks ago, they kind of kept their own a little bit with Mississippi State, but this is Bama. Bama, although they were very close to South Carolina a little bit, they ended up beating them 47-23. Tua Tagovailoa, 444 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wide receiver Devontae Smith, 8 catches, 136, 2 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs III, 6 catches, 122 and a touchdown. They did only have 76 rushing yards though, so because they were passing it a lot, but Alabama still, I mean, they run and they haven't been doing that. Their defense had 3 sacks, 2 turnovers, but they did give up 459 yards. So Southern Miss can move the ball a little bit. I don't expect this to be any kind of like upset or anything. It just might be close for like a quarter maybe or something, but Alabama should roll. Next we got LSU and Vandy. LSU took on Northwestern State in 1AA. They beat them 65-14, but it was only 24-14 at halftime. But then they blew off the doors in the second half. Joe Burrow, 21 of 24, 373, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 30 yards rushing and a touchdown. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, 5 catches, 124. They only ran for 122 yards. They had 610 total, and they had a punt return touchdown. Whereas Vanderbilt, they're coming off a bye week. The last game they played 2 weeks ago, they lost to Purdue 42-24. However, quarterback Riley Neal, Ball State transfer quarterback, he had some nice numbers. 378, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Wide receiver Chris Pierce, 3 catches, 133 and a touchdown. They only had 71 rushing yards. They did have 491 total yards. They have Keyshawn Vaughn, one of the best running backs in the SEC. Their defense did allow 509 passing yards to Vanderbilt, and with this new offense LSU's got, they might be able to pass it all over Vanderbilt. Also, Vanderbilt had 13 penalties in that game. If they want a chance of upsetting LSU, they need to not have any penalties, and they need to get Keyshawn Vaughn going to keep the LSU offense off the field. But I think LSU rolls here. Tennessee and Florida. Tennessee, they had a nice win. They finally won their first game. They beat 1AA Chattanooga 45-0, but it's a confidence boost for them. Garantano he only played like a half, but he was 7 for 8, 142 yards and 3 touchdowns. They ran for 195 yards. They had a blocked punt return for a touchdown. Their defense only allowed 227 yards, and they forced 5 turnovers in the game. And they're playing the Gators, and I'm a Gator fan, but they can't take Tennessee lightly because Florida's not all that good. I mean, they're decent, but they can't just roll out like Bama can, right? They beat Kentucky 29-21. They were actually down 21-10 when Felipe Franks got hurt. He had decent numbers, 12 of 17, 174, a touchdown, but he threw a pick. He had a fumble loss, and I'm not glad he's hurt. I'm glad he's not playing. He sucks. I don't like him. He needs to transfer. Get the hell out of there. Kyle Trask came in, put up good numbers, 9 of 13, 126 yards, ran for a 4-yard touchdown, and led them back to the win, 29-21. The defense forced 4 turnovers, and Kentucky missed a field goal late. I'm giving Florida the edge here. It's in Gainesville. So hopefully Florida can keep it going. Next is Michigan and Wisconsin. This looks good on paper. Michigan, they're both coming off bye weeks. Michigan's last win was that double overtime win against Army. They snuck out one, 24-21. Pretty much all they had going for them was running back Zach Charbonnet. He had 100 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns. They turned it over 3 times. Michigan did. Their defense did force 3 turnovers, but they allowed 200 rushing yards. Now Army is an option team, so that's what they do. But they showed they can be run on, and that's what Wisconsin does with probably a Doak Walker Award winner Jonathan Taylor and a high Heisman candidate at the moment, and this could be his showcase game. Their last game, though, they had a bye. Their game before, they killed Central Michigan 61-0. They've only played 2 games, but they got shutouts in both of them. They've allowed 0 points so far this season on defense. And quarterback Jack Cohn, he had a really good game. They don't get a whole lot out of their quarterbacks normally, but he was 26 of 33, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor ran for 102, 3 touchdowns, had 17 receiving yards and a touchdown. They ran for 199 as a team. Wide receiver Quintez Cephas, 6 catches, 130, and 2 touchdowns. And their defense only gave up 58 total yards to Central Michigan. Honestly, I'm going Wisconsin here. I think Michigan's way overrated. I think Wisconsin might blow them out, but I think Wisconsin wins for sure. A really interesting non-conference game here. Cal against Ole Miss. Cal's coming off a nice 23-17 win against North Texas. North Texas is a really strong CUSA team. After the first quarter, Cal was up 20-0, but North Texas almost came all the way back. Like I said, the final score is 23-17. Quarterback Jace Garbers, he was only 9 of 22 for 129 and a touchdown, and he ran for 70 more yards. They were outgained by North Texas 329 yards to 278. They did force two turnovers, which helped them win in the end. Ole Miss is coming off a win against 1AA Southeast Louisiana, 40-29. Quarterback Matt Corral threw for 239, 2 touchdowns. Running back Scotty Phillips ran for 103 and a touchdown. They ran for 220 as a team. They had 459 total yards. The defense had 3 sacks, forced 4 turnovers, my bad. But they did allow 375 yards and the 29 points, and it was pretty much back and forth. It wasn't like Ole Miss went up big and let them come back late. It was pretty close a lot of the game. So Cal doesn't have a very good offense, but Ole Miss doesn't have the best of defenses. However, I am going Ole Miss here slightly. It would be a bit of an upset since Cal is ranked now. But I'm going Ole Miss here, but that's a really interesting non-conference game. Another interesting one, in my opinion, Western Michigan from the MAC taking on Syracuse. Western Michigan demolished Georgia State 57-10. John Watson, he didn't do a whole lot passing, 15 of 22, 46 and a touchdown. He ran for 33 yards and a touchdown. However, they had 2 guys go over 100 rushing yards and ran for 450 yards. They're not an option team. They just did it. Like, that's their... They can put up these types of numbers. Running back Levante Bellamy ran for 192 and 3 touchdowns. Sean Tyler ran for 138 and 2 touchdowns. They had 694 total yards. Their defense had 4 sacks, 3 turnovers, but they did allow 210 rushing yards, so maybe Syracuse can get something going there. Whereas Syracuse is coming off a loss, 41-6 to Clemson. Tommy DeVito wasn't very good, 172 passing yards and a pick. They only had 187 total yards. Their defense did have 2 interceptions, but this, I think, Syracuse is favored by 6, but I think Western Michigan will take it. Syracuse has not looked very good this year. Western Michigan does look like a really good MAC and a really potent offense, and I think Western Michigan might take this. So I'm picking Western Michigan. That's an interesting early game to keep an eye on. All right, 1AA Elon taking on Wake Forest. Wake Forest is coming off a semi-controversial 24-18 win against North Carolina. However, Jamie Newman was great. 214 passing yards, a touchdown and pick, 78 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. They ran for 222 yards as a team. Wide receiver Sage Surratt had 9 receptions, 169 and a touchdown, and set a school record with 152 yards by halftime receiving. Their defense did have 6 sacks in that game, and I think they keep it rolling against Elon. Wake Forest is 3-0, and I think they're about on the cusp of maybe getting ranked, so we'll see. Boston College and Rutgers. Man, Boston College come off a bit of a surprise. They played Kansas. Kansas had not beaten a Power 5 team on the road since 2008. Kansas went into Boston College, and after a really close first half, blew the doors off them. Kansas beat Boston College 48-24. The defense for Boston College allowed 2 100-yard rushers and 329 rushing and 567 total yards to a Kansas offense that the week prior lost 12-7 to Sunbelt Coastal Carolina, which is a decent team, but what a difference, with 7 points losing and 48 and all that offense. Quarterback Anthony Brown for Boston College, though, he was only 18 of 36 for 195 yards and a touchdown. Running back A.J. Dillon, one of the best in the country. He had a really good game, 151 rushing yards and a touchdown. They did have 447 yards. And they're playing a Rutgers team who's coming off a bye. The last time they played, they lost 30-0 to Iowa. Their quarterbacks only combined for 10 for 27 for 41 yards. They threw 2 picks. They had 125 total yards. They had 3 turnovers. Rutgers, I don't know what to think about them. The first game they actually put up 48 points, but I don't know. I'm going Boston here. Louisiana, Monroe, and Iowa State. Louisiana, Monroe is coming off a bye, but the week before they only lost in overtime to Florida State 45-44 because they missed an extra point. Quarterback Caleb Evans, 241, 2 touchdowns, plus 32 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Running back Josh Johnson ran for 126 and a touchdown. They had 419 total yards. Their defense forced 3 turnovers. They had a pick 6, but they allowed 501 yards of offense. They faced an Iowa State team who just lost against their rival by a point, 18-17. Brock Purdy threw for 276 and a touchdown. Wide receiver Tariq Milton, 8 catches, 144 and a touchdown. They had 418 total, but only 91 rushing yards, and they had 2 turnovers. This is a sneaky game. Louisiana Monroe was shown they went 6-6 last year. They weren't invited to a bowl game, but they were bowl eligible. They've shown their first couple of games, especially against Florida State, that they can put up some points. So Iowa State better not look past them. I picked Iowa State here, but another interesting one to keep it on for a half and see how it goes there. UConn taking on Indiana. UConn had a bye. Their last game 2 weeks ago, they lost to Illinois 31-23. It's weird though because they had a lead in the game and it was a close game, but they only had 10 rushing yards. They had 3 turnovers, but their defense did force 3 turnovers and they had a pick 6 in the game. Indianapolis is coming off a loss, 51-10 to Ohio State. They only had 42 rushing yards. Their defense allowed 520 yards. But I honestly, in this game, I think Indiana is the better team. UConn has a really good running back in Kevin Mensah. But that's kind of all they got going for them. Indiana has D.B. Scott, and they have 2 good quarterbacks they could choose from. And I think Indiana not rolls in this, but should at least win. All right, Michigan State against Northwestern. Michigan State's coming off a not weird, but a loss. They were upset by Arizona State. They only lost 10-7. Their kicker, he made a field goal late in the game to tie it, but Michigan State was called for too many men on the field. He tried again from 5 yards further back, missed it, so they lost. Brian Lewerke, quarterback, passed for 291. Wide receiver Darryl Stewart had 9 catches for 121 yards. They had 404 yards of offense. Their defense had 4 sacks. They only allowed 216 yards, but they did have 10 penalties and that missed field goal. And they're taking on a Northwestern team who struggled week 1 in Stanford and lost. They beat UNLV, a decent UNLV offense, 30-14. Quarterback Hunter Johnson, a transfer from Clemson. He was only 12 for 25 for 165 yards, a touchdown and pick. He ran for 55 yards and a touchdown. Running back Drake Anderson had a good game, 141 rushing yards and a touchdown. They ran for 276 as a team. They had 441 yards of offense. Their defense had 5 sacks, 3 turnovers, but they did allow 210 rushing yards. And running back Charles Williams for UNLV went off for 144. So this will be a really close game. I think it should be a bit of a defensive matchup. I'm leaning Michigan State here, but Northwestern one of those plucky teams that they win games they probably quote shouldn't win. So this will be a good one. 1AA Morgan State taking on Army. Army's really good. They beat UTSA 31-13. Their quarterback, Kelvin Hopkins, he was out. I'm not sure if he'll be back for this game or not, but if he's not back, Jabari Laws filled in really well for his first start. He ran for 137 yards and a touchdown. They had 340 rushing yards in that triple option. They did turn it over twice, which they can't do, but their defense had 5 sacks, 3 turnovers, and only allowed 51 rushing yards. And I think they should keep that going here against Morgan State. Coastal Carolina taking on UMass. Coastal Carolina beat 1AA Norfolk State 46-7. They had 4 quarterbacks combined 13 for 30, but they're more of a running team, not really an option, but just more run focused. Running back DJ Marable ran for 101 yards and a touchdown. They had 401 rushing yards. They had 521 total yards. The defense only allowed 117 yards, 2 turnovers, and allowed Norfolk State only to go 1 for 10 on 3rd down. UMass got demolished by Charlotte 52-17. They only had 262 total yards. They were 3 for 14 on third down. Their defense allowed 533 yards and 338 rushing yards. Like I just said, Coastal Carolina just ran for 401, so I think Coastal Carolina should win this one. Louisiana and Ohio, this should be a shootout. Dude, Louisiana, they beat Texas Southern 1AA team 77-6. Levi Lewis, quarterback, 10 of 13, 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they have a running game. I said in the beginning of the season, even though they're a Sun Belt team, they have one of the best trio of running backs in the country. And now maybe make that a quartet because they have a running back, TJ Wisham. He ran for 103 yards, and he wasn't even one of those trio that I mentioned. They ran for 440 yards as a team, and again, they're not a triple option team. That's just, they're good on offense. They had 8 rushing touchdowns by I think like 6 different people or something. It's 748 total yards. The defense only now 236 and allowed Texas Southern to go only 3 for 16 on third downs. Ohio was coming off a really close game against Marshall. They lost 33-31. Nathan Rourke, the quarterback for Ohio that I call the Canadian Tim Tebow, he passed for 215, 3 touchdowns, and ran for 118 yards and a touchdown, and that touchdown was a 75-yard touchdown run. They ran for 223 as a team. They had 438 total yards. The defense did allow 511 yards. I think this should be a shootout. I think I picked Louisiana Lafayette, but this should be a really fun game to watch. I'm going to pay attention to it. All right, Troy is taking on Akron. Troy, I mentioned earlier, they had that shootout against Southern Miss. They lost 47-42. But quarterback Caleb Barker, 29 of 43, 504 yards, 4 touchdowns. They only ran for 24 yards, but they had 4 100-yard receivers. That's very, very rare. Occasionally throughout the season, you'll see a team with 3 guys over 100 yards. I'm not sure the last time I saw 400-yard receiver by one team in a game. I know I've seen it before, but I think it's been a few years. Let me just list them out. Kalen Geiger, 6 catches, 118, touchdown. Trey Eford, 7 catches, 110, touchdown. Luke Whittemore, 5 catches, 110. And Khalil McLean, 4 catches, 104, 2 touchdowns. Reggie Todd, he had a kick return for a touchdown. They had 528 yards. However, the defense did allow 626 yards and a kick return for a touchdown. Whereas Akron, they lost to Central Michigan 45-24. Quarterback Cato Nelson, he was pretty solid, 243, 3 touchdowns and a pick, ran for 26 yards. They only ran for 40 as a team. They had 2 turnovers, and our defense did allow 533 yards. I think Troy should kill them in this game. Like I said, Akron has a pretty good quarterback, Cato Nelson. That's really all they have going for them, and Troy should take care of business. So you got, in the last one of the noon games, Eastern Michigan taking on Central Connecticut. Eastern Michigan had an upset win against a Big Ten team, Illinois. They beat them 34-31. It's their Eastern Michigan's 3rd straight season beating a Big Ten team, and again winning field goal at the end. Quarterback Mike Glass III, 316 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, added 37 on the ground. They ran for 164 as a team. They had 480 yards of offense. Their defense had 6 sacks against Illinois and forced 2 turnovers. And I think they should roll against Central Connecticut. So, come back and watch my 3:30 games where I'll talk about Auburn, Texas A&M, and all that good stuff. Peace.